The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet, knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
The Road Not Taken, a gentle irony we mistook for an anthem. The Road Not Taken is an American masterpiece built on a simple trick. It's a brilliant, gentle satire on the very idea it is most often used to promote. For more than a century, this famous poem by Robert Frost has been quoted as a rallying cry for bold individualism, a celebration of choosing the road less traveled. But a close reading tells a different story. Rather than glorifying independence, the poem quietly and playfully exposes how people romanticize their choices after the fact, turning ordinary decisions into grand personal myths. A joke between friends. Understanding where the poem comes from makes its irony clear. Frost wrote it in 1915 as a lighthearted response to his close friend, Edward Thomas, a fellow poet. During their walks in the English countryside, Thomas often regretted not taking the other path, sighing about missed experiences. Frost turned that very human habit into poetry, a playful jab. Wrapped in autumn leaves and quiet reflection, Thomas missed the joke at first, so have millions since. A yellow wood and a moment of choice. The poem opens with a striking image. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. Here, the speaker stands at a fork in the forest, caught between two unknown futures. It's a moment everyone recognizes, staring down two possibilities, unable to take both. The yellow wood signals autumn, a season of endings and turning points. The moment feels personal and weighty because it is. Every meaningful choice closes one door and opens another. The illusion of the less traveled road. The speaker chooses the other path because it appears grassy and wanted wear, convincing himself it's the road less taken. But only a few lines later, he admits both paths were actually worn, about the same. This is where the poem's quiet irony blooms. People like to believe they're taking bold, unique paths, but often their choices aren't so dramatically different. The speaker, like many of us, builds a story around his choice, making it sound more decisive and significant than it truly was. This is Frost's wink. It's not about the path. It's about the story the speaker tells himself. No turning back. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. This moment carries a quiet truth. We imagine we might revisit other choices someday, but life rarely allows perfect do-overs. Each decision leads to another, creating a chain of new roads, new consequences, new selves. Once the speaker steps forward, the other path becomes memory, not reality. A story retold and rewritten. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. This is the stanza that made the poem famous, and famously misread. Many interpret it as the speaker boasting about choosing the braver, lonelier road. But listen carefully, I shall be telling this with a sigh. He imagines how he'll frame the story in the future. The sigh might be pride or regret or wistful nostalgia. It's a performance, the act of rewriting the past in more dramatic colors. What makes all the difference? If the paths were truly about the same, what made all the difference? It wasn't the physical path itself. It was the irrevocable act of choosing. The moment the speaker committed to a direction, every choice, no matter how arbitrary it may seem at the time, shapes the unfolding of a life. What then made all the difference? It wasn't destiny carved into the forest floor. It was the fact of choosing and living with that choice that set everything else in motion. The poem's brilliance lies in its layered ambiguity. The road may not have been less traveled, but it still became his road, and that matters. Why the poem endures. The road not taken endures because it captures a universal human impulse to look back, to explain, to give our lives a shape. We stand at crossroads, we choose, and then years later, we build narratives around those choices to make sense of who we've become. Frost doesn't mock this impulse. He simply holds up a mirror to it, letting us see the tender irony for ourselves. Final reflection. So when someone quotes this poem as a call to follow your own path, it's worth smiling softly. The speaker didn't blaze a new trail, he simply chose one, then gave it meaning later. The lesson isn't about finding the rarest path. It's about recognizing how choice, memory, and storytelling shape our lives. Every difference begins not with the road itself, but with the moment we take a step forward.
It's time to study new words in context. 1. Diverge. Definition: to move or extend in different directions from a common point, to separate or go apart. Example: the two roads diverge in the forest, forcing the traveler to choose one. 2. The undergrowth. Definition: the dense layer of small trees, bushes, and plants that grow beneath taller trees in a forest. Example: the path disappeared into the undergrowth, where light barely touched the ground. 3. As just as fair. Definition: an old-fashioned phrase, meaning equally beautiful or just as good or attractive. Example: the traveler found the second road as just as fair as the first, seeing little difference between them. 4. Arbitrary. Definition: based on personal choice, preference, or chance rather than on any reason, system, or fixed rule. Something arbitrary often seems random or without clear logic. Example: the decision to take the left path instead of the right felt completely arbitrary. Yet it changed the traveler's journey forever. 5. Hence. Definition: from this time or place, as a result, or for this reason. Example: the poet imagined that ages hence, he would look back and tell the story of his choice. 6. Satire. Definition: a literary technique that uses humor, irony, or exaggeration to expose and criticize human behavior or ideas. Example: Frost's poem contains a gentle satire of people who exaggerate the importance of their choices. 7. Rallying. Definition: stirring up or encouraging people to unite for a common purpose or belief. Example: the poem is often mistaken for a rallying cry to follow one's own path. 8. Jab. Definition: a quick, sharp poke, or a playful insult meant to tease or criticize lightly. Example: Frost wrote the poem partly as a humorous jab at his friend Edward Thomas. 9. Braver. Definition: showing more courage, confidence, or willingness to face danger or difficulty. Example: many readers think the speaker chose the braver path, though both roads were the same. 10. Nostalgia. Definition: a sentimental longing for the past, often mixed with affection and sadness. Example: the speaker's sigh at the end of the poem carries a tone of nostalgia for what might have been. 11. Irrevocable. Definition: impossible to change, reverse, or undo once it has been decided or done. Example: choosing one path made an irrevocable difference in the traveler's journey. 12. Blaze. Definition: to burn or shine brightly, or to mark a trail so that others can follow. Example: the phrase blaze a trail means to do something new and daring, like exploring an unknown road.
Comprehension questions. 1. Who wrote the poem The Road Not Taken? Answer: Robert Frost wrote The Road Not Taken. 2. What is the common popular interpretation of the poem? Answer: Many people interpret the poem as a celebration of individualism. The idea of taking the road less traveled and making bold, independent choices. 3. What does the article say is the actual meaning of the poem? Answer: The poem is an ironic reflection on how people romanticize and exaggerate their choices after the fact, turning ordinary decisions into meaningful personal stories. 4. Who was Frost's friend that inspired the poem? Answer: The poem was inspired by Edward Thomas, Frost's walking companion in England. 5. How did Edward Thomas inspire the poem? Answer: Thomas often regretted not taking the other path during their walks, sighing about missed experiences. Frost turned this habit into the poem. 6. What season is suggested by the phrase a yellow wood? Answer: Autumn is suggested, symbolizing change, transition, and reflection. 7. Who is the speaker in the poem? Answer: The speaker is the imagined traveler in the forest, who faces the choice between two roads. It is not Frost himself but a fictional voice. 8. Why does the speaker choose the second path? Answer: He thinks it looks grassy and wanted wear, believing it to be less traveled. 9. What does the speaker later admit about the two paths? Answer: He admits that both paths were actually worn about the same. 10. What does this admission reveal about human decision-making? Answer: It shows that people often imagine their choices are unique or bold when, in reality, the options may be quite similar. 11. What does the speaker say about coming back to the first path? Answer: He says he kept it for another day, but doubts he'll ever return because way leads on to way. 12. Why is the last stanza often misunderstood? Answer: Because people think the speaker is proudly claiming to have chosen a different, braver path, when in fact, he is imagining how he will tell the story later, not describing what actually happened. 13. What does the sigh in the final stanza suggest? Answer: It could suggest pride, regret, or nostalgia. The speaker is dramatizing his choice for future storytelling. 14. What does the article suggest really made all the difference? Answer: The act of choosing, the commitment to one path, made the difference, not the physical path itself. 15. How does this idea relate to real life? Answer: In real life, our choices shape our future experiences. Even if the options weren't that different, the choice itself sets our lives in motion. 16. What literary device does Frost use to deliver irony in the poem? Answer: Frost uses the gap between the speaker's future retelling of the choice and the actual similarity of the two paths, creating subtle irony. 17. Why does the poem remain powerful after more than 100 years? Answer: It reflects a universal human behavior, giving meaning and shape to our past decisions through storytelling. 18. What does the article say Frost is doing with the poem's irony? Answer: Frost is gently holding up a mirror, showing how we rewrite our lives through memory and narrative. Not mocking, but observing with quiet humor. 19. How does the article distinguish between the speaker and the poet? Answer: The speaker is a fictional traveler facing a choice. Frost is the poet who uses this speaker to explore human psychology and irony. 20. What final lesson does the article highlight? Answer: The lesson isn't about finding the rarest path. It's about how choice, memory, and storytelling shape our lives, and how meaning often comes after the moment of decision.